Mike, what comes after the letter B?
Cocoon is the C word, C.
True. What's up, everybody? My name is Nick.
I'm Mike.
We are the Brothers Murph, and we're continuing our alphabet series as we are going through the entire alphabet, picking 10 games from each letter. Possibly, sometimes we might have to combine letters.
Yeah, I am.
And picking our 10 favorite games from that letter. I'll tell you what we did not need to do is combine C. There are a lot of games that start with C that are incredible.
Yeah, and like I
list
don't
was
know how
humongous.
or why that is, because I don't think of C as like the most common letter. It's a pretty common letter, but
For board gamers, it is apparently.
it's everywhere. So we're going to talk about only 10 games to start with the letter C that are amongst our very favorites to play. Do us a favor. Give us your favorite 10 or however many you got games that start with the letter C in the description or the comments of this video, because we like to compare and see what people's tastes are and stuff like that. And in the meantime, we'll get right into our top 10.
Number 10 is a modern classic at this point, and this is Codenames Duet. Codenames, or Codenames really in general, Codenames Duet is our favorite version. I just played this again the other day, and I just absolutely love it. Codenames is as popular as it is. They sold millions and millions of copies of it for a reason. It's just good, especially Codenames Duet. This is a game where you're going to have a grid of words, or unless you're playing Codenames Pictures, in which case you'll have pictures. You have a grid of words, and then you are going to try and get your teammates to guess certain words that you have that you need them to guess. Every team is going to have certain words that belong to them, and you need them to guess. And so if some of my words are like goat and sheep, I could say like animal for 2. And 2 means animal relates to 2 of the cards down there that I need you to guess. Then I'm like, oh, goat and sheep. But there's a whole bunch of other cards. So there might be like dolphin out there. So you're like, oh, I have sheep and I have goat, but I also have dolphin. So you're like, oh, what can I do to not get them to guess dolphin and guess these 2 instead? It's really, really fun. The Codename Duet is the cooperative 2-player version of it, which works really, really well, because you just get to get right in with your teammate and be like, come on, let's get on the same wavelength. You know what I'm talking about. You know what I'm talking about here. And it's just really, really good. Love Codenames. It's just done incredibly well, and I think it's deserved.
Number 9C is Cascadia. Cascadia is a game that ever since it came out has been one of our most played games. It's an incredibly playable game is how we always refer to it, meaning that you will often play a couple games back to back, and it's just a really fun, light, simple tile laying game where you are going to be taking on a turn a tile, hexagonal tile, which you'll add to your landscape before you. And it's going to come with a token, which is going to show one of the types of animals in the game. So the rules are you add that new tile, whatever token you got, you have to place it on any of your tiles that are in your display that shows that animal. So salmon typically like to be around water, so you can place it on any tile that shows that animal. Each animal wants to be situated specifically on the board, and that will change depending on which set of cards, kind of scoring cards you use. But the bears, for example, will want to be in, like you want to get a group of 1, a group of 2, and a group of 3 bears in the game to kind of get these bonus points. You might want elk all in a line. You want to do salmon in kind of a run. You want your hawks to be all kind of different because they're all competing for their prey, stuff like that. So it's ultimately a simple game of like grab a tile and a paired token, place those things and move on. But as you place out your landscapes, the more you kind of match landscapes and make a big area of mountain, for example, you can get some bonus points at the end of the game for having the largest area of mountain. So it's not that there's no decisions, no thought that goes into your turn, but it's very kind of smooth and easy to get into. So that's made it very playable for us. That is Cascadia.
Number 8 is one of our biggest evangelism games, I feel like, and that is Castell. We talk about Castell a lot, really try to evangelize it and try to get people to play it because it's just so much dang fun. This is a game set in the Catalonia region of, I almost said France, gosh, in Spain. So, and in this area, there is a tradition of castellers. And these are the people who make those giant, like, human pyramids, those kind of giant, like, cylinders of people. You've probably seen like YouTube clips of them and stuff like that. That's Castellers. That's what they do. They have all these different troops and they make these big pyramids, and it's just so darn cool. It's such a cool theme. And this game is about that, where you are traveling around Spain, getting different Castellers, recruiting them into your troops, and then putting on performances in certain cities around the board. And you put on performances by building out your pyramid of people. And you have different tiles that have like 10s. 10s are like big burly dudes who are on the bottom of the thing. And then there's 9s who are like big burly women who are above them. Then 8th, then 7th, then 6th, 5, 4, 3, 2, and then 1. And then 1 is literally like a child. Because at the very top there are like children in like helmets and gear just being like, oh, let's go. It's awesome. And so you're building out your pyramid. One thing I love about Castell is one of those games where there's all these rules about how you can build your pyramid. It's very, very restrictive. But as you train in different things, you start to get to break some of those rules, and it's really satisfying. This game is incredible. It's got a great look. It's got a super cool theme, and I feel like no one ever plays it. No one ever talks about it. Play Castell next time you can. If you see it at a convention like that, it's absolutely incredible.
Number 7 is Caverna. For us, this is the game. We haven't actually played Agricola. We jumped right into Caverna because we kind of heard that it's got a lot of DNA with Agricola in it, and you kind of have these dual boards of kind of outside fields and things, and now this cave system that you're trying to explore and build out with your dwarf family. So this is a worker placement game that we really enjoy for the fact that there's a lot of stuff to consider. There's a lot of tiles you can play. It's a lot. However, the action spaces you can use come out one round at a time. So you have only a handful, 8, 9, 10 or so, depending on your player count, to start with, and then you get new actions as you go. So it's kind of great that you can play this big game, but if you're teaching somebody, you can sort of delay teaching aspects of the game until they become relevant, until that action, space gets flipped over. Now we can explain like having children and getting more workers, things like that. So I really appreciate that they give you this sort of slow way of revealing what you can possibly do in the game, so that it makes that teach a little bit easier. It's not a light, easy teach, but it is lighter and easier than it could be. And you're doing fun worker placement stuff, building out your dwellings and stuff like that, going on adventures with the dwarves that have been armed with weapons and stuff. It's just a great classic Uwe Rosenberg game, and of course we are big fans of Uwe Rosenberg, so Caverna is a no-brainer.
Number 6 is maybe the greatest game ever made. I know it's only number 6 on this list, but it's Crokinole. Crokinole is the greatest game ever made. The Crokinole board right there on my wall. I wish I was playing it right now because it's incredible. Crokinole is probably the best dexterity game ever made. It's a game... It's just it's elegant, strategic, it's beautiful. It's a game with a big wooden board, and you have wooden discs, and you're trying to flick, kind of shuffleboard style, you're trying to flick discs into the center ring, or in the center hole there. If you get in the center hole, you get to take it out, and you're gonna get 20 points at the end of the round. And it's kind of shuffleboard style rules where it's kind of point eliminations, where if I get 15 points for having my disc in the inner ring, Mike gets 15 points for having his disc in the inner ring, those cancel each other out. So you count up your points at the end of the round, and then whoever has essentially more points will essentially get the difference of whatever they get. It's just so much fun. It's so good because there's these pegs around the center ring that you just smack into. When you're flicking onto the board, you have to touch at least one disc of your opponent's, and that's really, really tough because sometimes they're in really tough spots. There's whole tournaments for Crokinole. It's been around forever. There's beautiful $1,000 Crokinole boards, multi-$1,000 Crokinole boards that are made out of rich cherry and all this beautiful wood. It's just one of the greatest games ever made. If you haven't played Crokinole, next time you're at a con, next time you're at someone who has a Crokinole board, please play it because it's incredible. It's the greatest game ever made.
Number 5 is Cartographers. This is a flip and fill game. Set in the role player universe in terms of art, and you are making a map. You're going to flip over these cards. They're going to show you types of landscapes and a shape that you have to draw those landscapes in, and then go anywhere in your map. But what's important is you have these scoring cards, and so based on the scoring cards you have in a game, those change out from game to game. You might want all of your forests to be around the edge of the board. You might want to have your your farms and your water touching as much as possible, kind of building out, or have things spread all apart. You want to complete rows and columns possibly. It changes from game to game, and you're going to score each condition 2 times. So you're going to score like A and B in the first round, then B and C, C and D, then D, and then back over to A in the final round as you make it through a year of playing this game, 4 rounds. It's so fun and just infinitely playable for us because the scoring conditions can change, like what the forest is, what makes the forest valuable changes from game to game. And then also where they are placed in those 4 scoring conditions. So what's A versus what's B and C and D can also really change what you want to do, but you're ultimately beholden to what cards get flipped over and what you have to add to your map. So there's always a different puzzle kind of to explore every time you play. And it keeps us coming back. You get to color in this game, and that's really cool. Some people have made like really detailed, fun, kind of fantastical maps. It's just literally an the evergreen of evergreens for us, cartographers.
Number 4 is a very nostalgic game for us, and this is Cribbage. Cribbage is a classic card game where you're going to get a hand of cards, and you're going to discard down to 4 cards, essentially, and then you're going to try and score the best hand possible. But it's interesting in Cribbage because Cribbage is a game where whoever is the dealer is going to have something called the crib. So when you discard 2 of your cards, those are actually going to go into the player's crib. So you're going to discard 2 cards, they're going to discard 2 cards, and so their crib is also going to be made up of 4 cards. So you have a 4-card hand, and then they essentially have 2 4-card hands, and then dealer swaps back and forth, so you'll have the crib next time. And it's kind of classic card game stuff where at the end of the pegging phase, the playing cards phase, you will score your hand score for like a pair is 2 points, a triplet is 6 points. You can score a run of cards, like 3, 4, 5 is a run, and then you score 15s. 15s is a big part of it. So if you have a 7 and an 8, that equals 15. That's 15. If you have 7, 8, 8, you score 1 7 and 1 8, that's 15, and 1 7 and the other 8, and that's 15. So you see like 15 2, 15 4, but then you have a pair of 8s there, so you have a pair of 6, and you score like that. And so you get like double runs where you score like 3 4 5, 3 4 other 5, that's 6. A pair of 5s is 8. And so you score all these different things. Very classic card game. But then you also during the round is you play cards down. You play like, I'm gonna play a 6, then Mike plays let's say a 9. Boom, he got 15. He scores 2 points right away. So you're gonna do the card playing round. You're gonna play all your cards, and then you get to pick them up, and then you get to score them. It's just a classic game that you play with like your grandparents or like your uncle or your aunt or something like that. It's usually taught to by some kind of like older figure in your life and kind of passed down through the generations. That's how it's passed down to us. We have on the right there, our grandfather made cribbage boards. That's one of the ones he made right there. This one right here is also one that he made. We have a whole bunch of cribbage boards that are made by our grandfather who liked woodworking a lot and loved cribbage. And they're some of our most prized possessions. We have a whole bunch of them. So I love cribbage. If you haven't played it, play it. It's amazing.
So number 3 is the Crew. You can take either version of the Crew. Mission Deep Sea, the newest Crew, is our favorite. It does a couple things that we like that are improvements from the first one. But the Crew is a cooperative trick-taking game where you are given missions that you must complete. Now these missions will be randomized in varying degrees of difficulty. And you have to kind of collectively play your cards following kind of standard trick-taking rules where if I lead with blue and you have a blue, you must follow with blue if you can. Or you can throw off if you can't. It's really fun because it might be that like, okay, this person needs a green 4, this person can't get any rockets or submarines in the new one, and I have to get like more pink than anyone else. So you have to find a way to like, okay, we need to make sure you get this specific card, but we don't want to mess up you by doing this. And of course, in normal trick-taking games, you can't talk about the cards you have, so you have to kind of communicate with what you play. Like, I'm playing this for a reason. You led with blue, I played pink. What do we all know now? I don't have blue, or I'm not playing correctly. So you get to learn this kind of sub-language with the cards you play, and I think it's a great way to teach that in trick-taking because that's an aspect of a lot of trick-taking games. How do I manipulate the game state to be advantageous for myself, or now for the team? So I think it's just a great way to teach trick-taking. It's super duper fun. Those missions are always different. It keeps the game ever fresh. That is the Crew.
Number 2 is one of the classics of all classics at this point. This is Castles of Burgundy. It's got to be on the list. Castles of Burgundy is amazing. We actually just got the new fancy version. It's also very, very cool, but Castles of Burgundy in any iteration is just so darn good. It's a classic for a reason. It's also got a pretty easy rule set for the depth of strategy in the game because you're going to roll out 2 dice and you can only do a couple things with those 2 dice. There are tiles on the main board of these different depots. So if you roll a 5, you can take a tile from the 5 depot, or you can take a tile from your personal little depot and you can put it into your estate. So if I rolled a 5, I could put it onto a 5 spot. And your estate also has different colors because the tiles have matching colors, and so you have to match colors as well. Like ship tiles are blue and they have to go on blue spots. So it's just this simple little rule set with that. And there's a couple other rules, of course. All the tiles do different things, but you're essentially trying to build out the best estate. There's like these grayish brown buildings. Those buildings essentially allow you to gain a whole bunch of other stuff, break some rules, things like that. It's just great. Castles of Burgundy is, if you haven't played Castles of Burgundy, please, please do it. When we first started on the hobby, we kept being like, why is everyone talking about this game? It looks real ugly. I don't get why everyone thinks this is so great. And we finally played it, and we've been obsessed with it ever since. It's just that darn good. It's absolutely incredible. Love Castles of Burgundy.
So our very favorite game from the seas, of which there's a lot of games that start with the letter C. It blows our mind. Our favorite, though, is Clans of Caledonia. Clans of Caledonia still just, we always say it flexes on people. I think it does. This game now does have an expansion announced, but it really hasn't had an expansion for quite a while. It's just the base game. It comes in a nicely sized box that's packed full of materials, but it's not a game that takes up too much space and you get to do this heavy, crunchy, economic game set in the Scottish Highlands. You get that kind of game experience that you like to see. So in this one, you are really trying to stretch your dollar as far as you can. As you spend money, you get to put out pieces which represent different types of production and stuff that you are doing. So you might have cows that go out into the world and they can be used for contracts. It's ultimately a contract fulfillment game. Those cows can go out and if they stay out on your board, it gives you access to build out little kind of dairy farms. And then for every cow you have, you can create a milk every round. So you're trying to build up your production because there are going to be these contracts that you want to fulfill as much as you can, but you also kind of want to get built out onto the board, kind of find the cheap land because everything costs money. Both the unit you put out onto the board and the land itself costs money and it's very expensive. And you want to complete as many of those contracts as you can to start importing these goods from afar. They're going to be worth the kind of most points. In each round, you're also going to have bonuses that you can go for that are going to give you in-game points. But again, most of those points come from the end of the game. So there's something beautiful about the simplicity of, I have this money, I have these things that cost a bunch of money. How do I stretch my dollar as far as I can? And then as you take stuff off the board, it reveals what it produces down below. So it's very kind of easy to understand. I actually misspoke with the cows, by the way. They produce milk, and you can make milk into a cheese if you have a cheesemonger. So the cows go out and they make that milk happen naturally. But you can also use them for a more permanent resource of meat for those contract fulfillments as well, but you can put them back out later. So that is, in a nutshell, Clans of Caledonia. It's a lot to unpack, but it does so much in such a reasonably sized box. And for us, we're like forever grateful for the size of the game physically versus the experience it provides.
So that was our top 10 games that start with C. I'm not sure which way it is. Nonetheless, C. Yeah, tons of good games. Again, there's so many that we missed that were on the short list. Yeah. Really, really great games to start with C. I remember we one time played our entire collection in 1 week, and the C block was by far the largest. C and T were tough. Yeah. So yeah, a lot of great games start with C, but D is going to be next, and we'll get into that video soon. So until next time, I'm Nick.
I'm Mike.
We're the Brothers Murph. We'll see you later, everybody. Bye.